Wolf, get away from those sheep.
Bollocks.
You're listening to the Wolf and the Shepherd podcast, broadcasting from Fort Worth in the great state of Texas. Now, get ready for this episode of the Wolf and the Shepherd.
Welcome to this episode of the Wolf and the Shepherd. Today, we have with us Crumb the Master Student. Crumb, good to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. Thank you again.
Yeah, so today is kind of an interesting episode of the Wolf and the Shepherd. We have never tried to use our board and video all together, so please be patient with us, or actually be patient with me. I'm going to try my best to make sure all this works. But for those that normally just listen, you're going to be able to see this whole thing on YouTube and actually see us sitting at our table talking. And of course, we've got Crumb remote where he's at. So going to be kind of an interesting version of what we usually do on this podcast.
Yeah, normally our guests aren't as good looking as Crumb, so we keep it to audio only.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, he's better looking than we are, which is a
Right.
problem. So
Yeah.
if we could just freeze the camera on him,
Yeah.
we probably would have been a lot better
Right.
off. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Mr. Crumb, what are you going to talk to us about today?
Yes, gentlemen, I am so excited to be here. I'm gracious that I was allowed to be on the platform. You know, I am your resident nerd, so we're going back to history class. So get your pillows ready, get comfortable. No, I'm just joking. A lot of history is just boring. It's like, oh my God, I hate history. So I want to give you a fantastic history lesson, you know, a little bit of blood, some guts, drama, death, turmoil, just the, you know, the regular.
Very
Vlad
nice.
the Impaler.
Vlad the Impaler.
Oh, I thought it sounded like he'd gone to like New York last week or something. I don't know.
Oh, that or Chicago.
Yeah.
I hear Chicago has kind of got some of that
Yeah.
stuff going on as well.
Right. Based on that description, it could have been anything.
Yeah.
Right.
What was Vlad the Impaler from Chicago?
No,
Oh.
I think his sister is
Sister?
mayor there. Though.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Just had to make sure. Yeah, I'm not a very good student of history, so I'm looking forward to learning about this.
Or politics or math.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or science.
Yeah.
Is there anything that I really know anything about? Oh, I do know how to run this board, but I watched a YouTube video that taught me how to do it.
That is true. Plus, you read the instructions as well.
Well, yeah, I had to figure out how to plug it into the wall.
Yeah. But anyway, sorry, we're digressing. So yeah, I'm very interested in the topic you're talking about today, Crumb. I do actually have a couple of books on the topic, although I will admit I've only read about half of one of them because I only found the other one after being in a box for about 12 years.
Well,
recently,
it's because we decided we were going to talk to this guy and you wanted to do research, but
yeah.
Well, I must admit, I wasn't necessarily a history buff, and some parts of history, I have to be transparent, they aren't, you know, stellar, glamorous, or, you know, interesting. But this is a particular point in history that is just phenomenal in terms of Vlad. So basically, is it okay if I share my screen at this point?
go for it.
Absolutely.
Gratitude. So basically, when we're dealing with Vlad, he has been vilified through this PowerPoint, excuse me, I digress. The PowerPoint is called The Real Dracula, Vlad the Impaler. So we know that based off Hollywood, which I like to call Hollyweird, the whole Vlad thing has been demonized through Hollyweird. So now if we say, oh, the guy Dracula was based off, well, Dracula was a bad guy, you know? That's not really hard to fathom. However, before I get into this, I want to make an argument that we are in the age of the anti-hero. Have you gentlemen heard that phrase before?
Yeah. Yeah.
So now we've got characters like, I think the first big anti-hero was Deadpool. When I was a kid, Deadpool was a bad guy. Then when I got older, he was like this likable, you know, quirky Batman. What do they call people who fight crime but they're not with the law?
Vigilante.
Vigilante. So now we have this newest one with Venom from Spider-Man as his nemesis. So what I want to do is basically what we've been doing in the 21st century is, taking a re-look at things and having a reimagination or a reevaluation, if you will. So let's consider the origins of Dracula not to be bad, not to be this blood-sucking parasite who's plaguing the village. He's actually the good guy, the one who is deep in the esoteric science. But I digress. Let's get right into it. Ooh, I don't know if you heard that, but that meant I did something wrong. Vlad was a knight. And I basically have here, Vlad the Impaler was the last European knight. He earned his name by carrying on the legacy of medieval Europe, which their legacy was feudalism, meaning, which technically we still are in a feudalistic society, but we try to disguise it with capitalism, democracy, and what have you. Anyway, when we go to war, in the name of the king, in the name of capitalism, in the name, this, all right, guys, this is feudalism by another name. In the name of democracy, all right, it's just feudalism. Anyway, so feudalism is basically root word feud. My people feud with your people, and whoever wins controls all the land. It's really that simple. And the knights were a part of a caste system or a hierarchy of the people. And I must admit, I do support this now that I've learned more and more about it. I do like this way of life. It is has a degree of chivalry that we lack today. So you have your king at the very top of the pyramid. Under the king are the nobles and the church officials. Under the nobles and church officials, you have your knights and your vassals. Underneath that, at the very bottom rung, it's only 4 rungs. At the very bottom rung are what you're going to call serfs and peasants, which today we're going to call those serfs citizens. And those manors that the citizens live in, we now call those municipalities or cities. And the lord over the manor, we now in our country call a governor. Yeah, feudalism is still here today. That's not what this PowerPoint is about. Just want to make sure we're clear on the correlation between now and then. So the dominant social system in medieval Europe was feudalism, in which the nobility held lands from the crown in exchange for military service, and vassals were in turn tenants of the nobles, while the peasants, called villains or serfs, were obligated to live on their lord's land and give him homage, labor, and share of the produce, notionally in exchange for military protection. And this system worked very, very well. And Vlad took this system to heart. There is a such thing as a good king, just like there is a such thing as a good peasant. Before I go to the next slide, because this is just the intro to give everybody a backdrop of what Vlad was born into. He was born into knighthood. He was born to be a fighter. Oh, fine, you don't want to fight? Get your ass out. I'm sorry, brothers.
You can say ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say ass.
Oh, okay.
Bollocks.
Well, yeah, but
Crap.
you say it all funny though.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Gratitude for the past. Get your ass out there and farm the land. If you don't want to fight, there's places in the social structure where you can fit in. You want to fight, then fight. You don't want to fight, go farm. So on and so forth. You want to be a clergyman, then be a clergyman. So this is the backdrop to Vlad the Impaler, where he is born into. We have to think like Vlad, because if you think in 2021, then yeah, Vlad looks like a monster. But if you go back and put yourself in that mind state, say, okay, well, the guy wasn't what we depicted him to be based off our position centuries later. But I digress. So now that we've gone through his European backdrop, we have to go through the science. And I want to give a big shout out and a rest in peace to Stan Lee. I am a comic book head. I am a movie junkie. I'm a Marvel fan. I do live in the Marvel universe. I raise my children right as Marvel fans as well. So it goes deep. Anyway, Stan Lee said, the key to a great superhero is a great supervillain. What defines a superhero, or any hero for that matter? His adversity. Nobody cared that George Bush became president. Your daddy was president. Everybody was like, I'm not an Obama fan. Everybody was like, oh, Obama, he was a junior senator, came from nothing. We love that underdog story. Now, again, I'm not an Obama fan, nor am I a Bush fan or a political person for that matter. You can kind of see I like to be somewhere else in my life. But I do understand we all love an underdog, and to be a good superhero or to have your name written into the books of history, the halls of our memory, you have to have a great supervillain. So Vlad, who was Vlad's supervillain? We have to set this tone before we talk about it so we understand. So here's what it says. Every great superhero needs an equally great supervillain. In this David and Goliath story, it is no question that Vlad is David, but in this story, David doesn't win. But he does fight Goliath in a battle that will be told for endless generations. Vlad's Goliath name was Mehmed II, a legendary war general who crushed the last leg of the Roman Empire and savagely ended the European medieval age. After putting fear in the heart of every person in the pale-skinned nation, the only soul who dared challenge him was Vlad. Not only did Vlad challenge this god-like figure, but he embodied God's devil as he endlessly terrorized him without mercy. You got to understand here, this is a guppy versus a shark. There's not one European man in anything east, in anything west of Asia that dare stand up to this man. This man, whose name is Mehmed, prior to him, keep in mind, he's bringing science to Europe. A lot of cultures are preserved through the opposition's war. Let me stop sharing screen. I want to talk you to death a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of history is preserved through war. So now, when they go and sack the town and raid the libraries, your enemies will take your history and, do as they will. So now a lot of European history was lost to the Ottoman Empire because Rome had just fell. Remember, Caesar, the oracle told Caesar, beware the Ides of March. We know March, April. When is the end? I gotta get my taxes filled by April 15th. Beware the Ides of March. By April, you got to pay the tax man. So Caesar did not, and the Senate stabbed him in the back. But the death blow was from his son or his adopted son, what have you. So now this is Europe's last great warlord. Europe doesn't see a great warlord ever until after Caesar, until you get to Napoleon. So now Caesar falls, the Roman Empire falls. However, it's not the whole Roman Empire. Let me just give you an example real quick. I'm gonna pass the mic, just kind of, make sure we keep the conversation going. Let's say the Roman Empire was America and everything west of the Mississippi. Oh, America's falling. I knew we shouldn't have voted for Obama. I know we shouldn't have voted. I'm just blaming people. I don't know. I know we shouldn't have voted for Trump. Anyway, so now America falls and everything west of the Mississippi falls. Everything east of the Mississippi survives. We no longer call that America, everything east of the Mississippi. We call that, let me think of something creative, the new 13 colonies. So now Rome falls. Yes, Rome stabs Caesar in the back. Caesar's dead. No more military. What do we do, guys? All right, everybody west of Europe, west side, everybody on the west, they're done for. Everybody on the east side, everybody on the east side of Europe, they survive under the name Byzantium or Byzantine. So they have a new leader. His name is Constantine. Constantine says, in hoc signo vinces, in this sign we shall conquer. Remember, Caesar didn't give an F about nobody's religion. In this new time, yeah, you've got to fight for God. This is a holy war at this point. So now he leads the remains of Europe are being led under Constantine, and all of this, the final leg of Europe is stomped out by the Ottoman Empire. This is at the Battle of Constantine. Because keep in mind, Europe was dealing with swords, shields, moats, castles. This is all medieval time. Hey, Crumb, when does the medieval time stop? Mehmed came into Europe. No more medieval for you guys. Mehmed had a cannon. The cannon was the size of Rhode Island. I'm just joking. It was a big cannon, and he sat at the capital for 44 days and just shot that cannon at the wall. Just shot it at the wall nonstop until he broke until so we're not doing that no more. We're using gunpowder. After after Mehmed II, Europe started using gunpowder, and that's what changed the world. We had a big change. Remember, we don't see a big rivalry like that until we go to China versus America, where Hollywood, the biggest industry that Hollywood brought out was Westerns. Westerns was gunpowder. We changed the world with gunpowder. While we were celebrating gunpowder through our Western space, John Wayne and them, China was still talking about some darn daggone karate. Karate? What? You must not seen the last. Does anybody know what race The Last Samurai was? You ever seen that movie?
Yeah, the Tom Cruise one. Yeah.
Last Samurai was a white man.
Yeah.
He told the Asian man, listen, and in the movie Last Samurai, they debuted the Gatling gun. I don't care about no damn karate chop.
Now, why did it take so long for gunpowder to come from the east to the west? Because didn't the Chinese have fireworks like even over 2,000 years ago? There was evidence of that. I mean, it was a slow kind of filtration to the west.
Well, we have to be mindful. Europe focused on after Mehmed II, Europe was like, F this, guys. We're focusing on technology. All right, so Crumb, what happened in Europe after the swords? You know, because keep in mind, this is around the time of what was the most famous sword in Europe?
Excalibur.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And now you pull out that Excalibur.
I won something. I answered a question correctly.
Oh, what caliber? The Excalibur is now a gun. So now you're going to see where Europe is almost forced into a new era, a new realm of technology, of advancement, and Europe leads the world, arguably. We don't see a level of technology in the last 5,000 years of history. You know, now keep in mind the pyramids and, you know, those type of things were incredible. But in terms of what we can bear witness to, and, you know, my grandma and grandpa was alive, we don't see nothing like that until Europe has their great renaissance, their enlightenment. However, at that threshold, because Crumb, what does that do with Vlad? At that threshold where the Arab came with superior technology and crushed the last leg of Europe and put fear in every European man's heart, the only European who was able to stand, who was brave enough, ingenious enough, crafty enough, charismatic enough to stand against God was Vlad. We give that man his flowers. Stop calling him a vampire. Call him a hero.
Now, there were some stories, obviously, around Vlad, which, whether they're true or not, they were used to taint his reputation. I remember one that one of his generals was complaining about the stench of the bodies on the spikes, and apparently Vlad had him put on a taller spike so he was above all the rest of the bodies, so he didn't.
Well, that's a good honor.
Yeah, I mean, it teaches you a lesson. But there are a lot of little tales like that, which I'm not sure have any basis in reality, because it seems so anecdotal to kind of who was standing there writing that down. Oh, Vlad's just impaled one of his officers because he said he didn't like the smell. So I don't know how much of that kind of stuff is true, or whether they were just things thrown in there to kind of, like I said, darken his reputation a little.
Right.
Absolutely. Now, we have to remember, you may fall on the wrong side of history. There's an African proverb: until the lion has his own historian, the glory of the hunt will always go to the hunter.
That's probably why Canada's history is terrible.
Yeah.
Because Canada's never won anything.
Well,
I mean, if you think about that.
Well, we're good at seal clubbing, apparently.
Well, yeah, that and hockey. But I mean,
Well,
is like a Canada history book, is it like 3 pages long?
well, yeah, it's just people on ice skates going around trying to find seals and clubbing them over the head with hockey sticks. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Until about 1975-ish.
Right. So,
Yeah.
Crumb, I would make sure that you don't try to do any kind of presentation on Canadian
Yeah, don't do
history.
it on
It's going to
Canada.
take like 45 seconds,
Yeah.
and you're just
Yeah.
you're going to be bored after that.
Yeah.
Touche. Absolutely. So Vlad, I pride myself as the historian of Vlad. I want to venerate Vlad in history. I want to take another look at his story, and I want to see, can we make sense of some of these things he did. I'm ready to address some of the infamy, but nobody is perfect. Everybody's gonna, I was a big Spider-Man fan, and in Spider-Man 3 with the symbiote, Spider-Man debuts a part of his character we haven't seen in a cartoon, where he actually goes emo. He dyes his hair black and puts it to the side, and there's a scene where he's just walked the beach, you can do, and he's doing one of those things down there, and the girls are looking at him, and he got swag and charisma, what have you. So I do understand.
But he was probably going to Hot Topic.
I don't know. But
Yeah.
I thought that was the only way they could get Dashboard Confessional on the soundtrack if they made him a little bit emo. So, yeah.
Well, that makes more sense.
And there was a scene where he overreacts, like he's in a club, and I think Mary Jane has kind of moved on, and she has a boyfriend because the whole the Spider-Man thing is keeping him missing the dates. So she moves on, and then he this is in a movie, and he goes into the whatever, like Mary Jane, and he's hitting on all cylinders, so he thinks he's gonna get laid. I don't know what the case may be, but it goes all wrong, and he uses his strength extra, and then, Peter, what's gotten into you? So my point is, everybody got a dark side of their story. Spider-Man's the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but he got an emo side. And I think, even though I am a Comic-Con geek, I have to, I want to say this about Vlad. The whole idea of emo, this whole trend of the kids wearing the black fingernail polish and lipstick and dyeing their hair black and covering one eye on some Illuminati-ish, all that came from Vlad, right?
No. I just thought he was the Dracula dude.
Yeah,
And
I
they
mean-
forgot to put like a vowel in between the first and second letters of his name.
Yeah,
I thought that's why he was always angry.
I think we had more of a gothic scene in England growing up than was popular here. Because
Really?
we had a lot of gothic bands like the Sisters of Mercy, the Damned, and that kind of backed off a little bit, but it kept on the underground and then re-emerged as emo, really, whereas everybody was still in black. And I think they used that line from that Smiths song, which was I wear black on the outside because black is how I feel on the inside, as kind of one of their
Makes sense.
themes. But go on, Crumb.
Absolutely, the whole goth movement was born. You can look it up. I'm not here to convince anybody or persuade anybody. Everybody got a computer in their hands at this point, family. I want to encourage anybody under the sound of my voice to go and activate that computer, that handheld computer, for something other than entertainment. So with that said, yeah, that movement came out of Vlad. So Vlad does have a dark side. I'm not here to make any excuses for him. I just want to put things into perspective.
Yeah. No, we're all for that.
Yeah. Now, could you, I don't know if you're going to cover this later, but could you give, just for our listeners and also for the Shepherd, a little bit of a backdrop to the geographical region where Vlad was? Because it was pretty close to the Carpathian Mountains, right? Exactly where that kind of Dracula legend came up. And there were some reasons why there is that kind of crossover where people keep asking, was Vlad the real Dracula? I mean, that really kind of came from the name, obviously,
Right.
Dracula, the little dragon and all this stuff. But, could you just give a little bit of a backdrop about that area? Because I think a few people outside of the Hammer horror movies and a few later renditions, maybe Dracula Untold, I think, tried to kind of cross Vlad and Dracula a little bit more to combine the stories, but obviously still heavily fiction. But yeah, could you just give us a little bit of a backdrop on that area at the time?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when we talk about Europe, we tend to get lost under the shade and the shadows of the Goliaths, like Italy, Germany, Switzerland, these big names. So when you start to get into these little countries like Wallachia, like what? Don't nobody know about no Wallachia. Come on. But no, the W is pronounced V. If one of the famous Dracula lines is "I want to bite your neck," but instead of saying the W he pronounces the W with a V. So we put my little my Transylvanian accent. I want to bite your neck. So it's not Wallachia, even though that's the spelling. It's Wallachia, because that's how we pronounce that. The Germans, you have to have your paperwork in order. So now he's in Wallachia, and Wallachia is the most southern eastern part of Europe. It's kind of like Florida. Instead of being right above Cuba, we're right above Turkey. To give you an idea where Wallachia is at. And when I say in the shadows of these other big names, it's sort of a double entendre, because one of the most darkest places in Europe, shadowy places in Europe, is going to be in Wallachia, which Wallachia is right under Transylvania, which is like this smidgen of a ink drop on a European map. It's hard to find, Anyway, so now there's the Black Forest, this really big, dense, dark forest. The trees are towering. They're all close together. It's just a dark area where the sun doesn't penetrate the canopy. In addition to that, it's true to what you've seen in the movies to that degree. It's foggy in this area. There's not a lot of UV, penetrating this part of the planet. We know this is the northern hemisphere as it is. And this is just a dark part of Europe. Great part of Europe, beautiful part of Europe. But in terms of sunlight, because when we know the idea of Dracula doesn't, the sun. It's a dark part of Europe that doesn't get a lot of light, which adds to the lore behind vampire and the idea behind that. But one of the most beautiful parts of Europe, let me say that as well, gentlemen.
So if it's a lot like Florida, does everybody retire there? Like whenever they're, deciding, hey, it's time for me to retire, so they go to Wallachia in Europe. Have you ever heard that when you were in England?
Well, I thought that was a place I invaded in the Elder Scrolls, but I'm probably wrong. How far away was that from Constantinople?
Or Istanbul? Not Constantinople.
Well, it used to be Constantinople.
Now it's Istanbul, not Constantinople.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're thinking of the song too much, aren't you?
Well, yeah, that's how I learned history.
Is it?
Constantinople, get the words. It's nobody's business but the Turks. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Right around the corner. This is all going to be in the same area, because remember, every colloquially, I'm speaking in metaphorically, everything west of the Mississippi fell. All of West Europe fell. That Spain side, what's over there on the west side? Ireland is over there on the west. We're over here on the east. There's Germany. This is all north. Germany, when you're looking downward, you're going to see the Caucasus Mountains. Under the Caucasus Mountains is where you're going to see Turkey and all that other Middle East, whatever the new name the kids are calling it these days. So now,
but do you think the Irish even knew that it fell, or were they all still just drunk in the pub?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, Ireland has a history of just being poor, invaded,
drunk,
taken away.
Oh.
It just...
So is that why they drink so much in Ireland?
Probably. They're probably drowning out like 1,000 years of misery or something.
Yeah, that makes sense. Plus, they're trying to stay away from the leprechauns.
Right. That's true.
The first slave trade was not in Africa. people will tell you, well, you know, before the transatlantic slave trade was the Islamic slave trade. No, the first slave trade was not the Islamic slave trade. The first slave trade was the Vikings in Ireland.
Huh.
I thought it was the
did not know that.
Egyptians.
Well, the Egyptians had,
Or were they just like doing it? They weren't trading. They were being a little
true.
selfish.
They just used them for
So
their-
I see what he's saying.
Right,
the
yeah.
trade part, it's like, yeah, that started. So the Egyptians were selfish. So like, we're going to build these giant triangles out in the desert, and nobody can
Right.
have any of these. You can't even buy them.
Yeah.
Kids with their Legos.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and just real quick, you know, in the spirit of history, the whole retirement thing in Florida is due to Ponce de Leon. He was looking for the Fountain of Youth, which was supposed to be in St. Augustine, Florida, which is the oldest city in America, supposedly. So now, yeah, that's why Florida's a big retirement spot. It's the spot for water of the Fountain of Youth. But I digress, obviously. But yeah, so now we're on the west side, the east side of Europe, right above, between the separation between the Middle East and Europe is going to be Wallachia. After Wallachia, directly north is Transylvania. Directly northeast is going to be Hungary. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I don't know if it's Hungary.
Yeah,
or
it's Hungary. Yeah.
Oh, Hungary. Okay.
What a bummer of a name for a country if you stop and
Hungary.
think about it. Because, I mean, you walk around, you're like, I'm hungry. Yeah, we all are. We're all here. No, seriously, I want to eat something. Yeah,
Well, I
we
figured-
all do because we have no food here.
Well, I figured when he showed us that first pyramid, when it showed, you know, the structure of society back then,
Right.
that somehow you and I, although we wanted to be in that third tier with the knights and the noble people, that we would somehow be in that bottom bit with the people sitting in a puddle of cow piss and stuff,
Well,
and
yeah.
starving to death. Yeah.
Just like in Monty Python and the Holy Grail,
Yeah.
where they're sitting there in the muck and all of that.
Oh,
Yeah, that
the
would
king, and the king rides past, and this says, "Oh, look, it's the king." He goes, "How do you know he's the king?" He goes, "He's the only one not covered in crap."
Exactly.
That's a good one.
But if we were in India, we wouldn't get the COVID.
That's true.
So
Actually, have you? This is a very big side. Have you heard that in India, one of their elected officials, got in trouble because she told people to forego the vaccine and actually cover themselves in cow dung and also drink cow piss because that would protect against COVID.
I did not hear that.
Yeah.
But you know, they worship the cow over there.
Well-
I'm not trying to disrespect anybody. They do worship it, but I don't subscribe to that ideology.
Do you know, I actually learned why they worship cows, because we've done a few news articles recently on the Indian response to COVID, and I actually found out why they worship cows. Apparently in the cow dung, in the cow pats, mushrooms grow, which are psychedelics. And so they would eat the mushrooms.
Oh, that
and
makes
have,
sense.
You know, these visions and trances and stuff. And they considered, oh, this is what the cow was giving us. And that's how they would treat it as sacred, because people would obviously find this connection with God through these psychedelics. And so that's how the cow became revered in India.
yeah, but it's revered in Texas because a ribeye steak tastes fantastic
Yeah.
when it's cooked medium rare.
Yeah.
Touche. I'm liking you. I see what you bring to the platform, I tell you.
A lot more than just a pretty face, I guess.
Yeah, it's just as well, because that's fading fast. So,
Yes.
yeah.
So Wallachia is like the buffer zone between the buffer zone between Europe and the Arab estates. And Vlad does a honorable job at standing in the face of death and not only smirking but terrorizing it. And that's truly the magnitude of his story. And I appreciate you gentlemen being so patient with me because it's just so much to cover. But yeah, let's continue. We're only on the third slide, going on the fourth, so I guess you can see how deep the topic goes. So this slide, number 4, is called Like Father, Like Son. Dracula, his father's name was Vlad II. Vlad Dracula, or Vlad the Dragon. He was inducted into the Order of the Dragon and then recognized as the lawful voivode of Wallachia, or in English, Wallachia. He was voivode, meaning ruler of Wallachia, in 1436 up until his death in 1447. He was born illegitimate. That's very important, folks. Vlad's father was illegitimate. He wasn't the son of the queen. He was the son of the king, not the queen. So he's still illegitimate. Anyway, he was born illegitimate and couldn't assert his claim until his half-brother, who was official, had died. After his brother's death, Vlad seized Wallachia with Hungarian support. They don't call those people hungry. They call them Hungarian. I'm just joking. Yeah, but I get you. It was a funny joke. With Hungarian support against his half-brother's supporters. The Ottoman Empire. Hold on. The Ottoman Empire is supporting your half-brother? I thought those were the bad guys. Crumb, sit down. All right, let me just read. The people supporting his half-brother was the enemies, the Ottoman Empire. After a power shift, Hungary's position weakened because Hungary is fucking huge. Hungary's support means everything, because keep in mind, this is a feudal system. So now the only reason you're in power because the people you down with in power. Now, all your friends done lost their guns. You're not so, confident about going into this gunfight with these Ottoman people because they got big guns or lots of swords. Guns don't exist at this point. So now the Ottoman after a power shift, Hungary's position weakened, causing Daddy Vlad, to abandon Hungary and join his enemies, the Ottomans. Wah, wah, wah. I really need some sound effects, guys. You see what I'm doing in my head?
Now, is it true that the Italians, until the invasion by the Ottoman Turks, were actually all blonde-haired and blue-eyed? And then when the Ottoman Turks invaded and obviously raped and pillaged their way through Italy, it pretty much changed the complete, makeup of the country.
When you say the Turks, are you referring to Hannibal?
I don't know, but I just know that
Hannibal. I thought he was the dude in Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah. Well, he had another job before that.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
I thought he was always just the.
How do you think he got that? How do you think he got that way in the first place?
Oh. He probably saved his money.
Well, yeah, and came to America.
Oh, okay. Well, is that why at the end of the other movie he wants to go back to Europe?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. I always wondered that.
Yeah. So no, I don't know which kind of faction, I guess, of the invading Muslim empires it was, but definitely Italy used to be very fair-skinned and blonde-haired and blue-eyed until the invasion, and then eventually you look at what is typically Italian today. Historically, that is not what Italians look like.
Right. That makes sense.
No, absolutely. Yeah. That is the story of Hannibal. And the other one is actually Hannibal Lecter. Tomato.
Oh, it's still Hannibal, though.
Yeah. You can never, in good conscience, name a kid Hannibal because it's got too many negative connotations.
That's true.
Yeah.
He's got a point there.
I would name a kid Vlad, though.
Yeah.
I think if I get another dog, I might name it Vlad.
I don't think a Vizsla would be a good Vlad.
Well,
Vlad
the Vizsla? Brilliant.
Vlad, that's like a tongue twister, though, to say.
I mean, it's a variety test.
Vizsla is bad enough to try to say or spell. Then you got Vlad.
Well, they come from Hungary, Vizslas. I mean, they were bred purposely for human companionship, which is very rare in the dog breeding world. But no, Vizslas originate in Hungary. And they were used for hunting dogs, but they were close human companions because these hunters would go out for days and days. And obviously in isolation, you can get a little bit mad, start seeing things, especially in places like Hungary with all the superstitions. And so these were very close companion dogs, which would stay by your side, sleep with you, and it actually helped the hunter kind of keep cognitively, focused and not go a little bit mental. But
yeah, but you told me the other day that they were from Wisconsin.
Well, that's where they came after Hungary. No, that's the big center in the United States for Vizslas up there in Wisconsin.
Okay. So
remember, they bark in a funny accent.
Right.
They bark in a Wisconsin accent.
Yeah, but
so
does that mean that all the people in Wisconsin are from Hungary?
Probably the people with the Vizslas. Yeah.
Okay, just that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Wow. I was also going to say about Vlad. Vlad is actually short for Vladimir, and it's a popular name, might I add. Do you know the leader? I don't know if his position is president. I don't know if it is, but the leader or president of Russia?
Yeah, Vladimir Putin. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Vladimir
does that mean,
Putin.
So
Well, it's an Orthodox Christian name, isn't it?
right,
Vladimir?
but now you're starting to confuse me. So is Vlad Russian, and he's the president
name-
of Russia?
Well, the name Vladimir is I think an Orthodox church, Orthodox Christian church kind of name Vladimir, just like you get popular names, among Christian.
Wasn't that Lenin's
history,
name?
like John and Mark, etc. And the same thing in the Muslim world. They tend to name people after prophets and people, but it's the same way in the Orthodox Christian church that there were popular names which were given. And Vladimir, I don't know the history of that name, but perhaps Crumb is going to tell us.
Yeah, but also you have Lenin, right? Vladimir Lenin. Wasn't that his name?
I'm not sure.
The lead singer of the Beatles.
Oh, John Lennon.
Yeah, that one too.
That one, yeah.
John, close. Yeah. No, I in this actual one, I didn't go into the name, Vlad. I really I stayed true to the history, but no, there's something there. Absolutely, that's right and exact. And even though with all the goth and the Dracula and satanic whatever, Vlad was a staunch Christian. I want to point that out as well. To your point,
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's again where the Dracula legend kind of crosses over, where they try to introduce the romanticism in it. Because remember, it's like the retreating Turks fire a arrow through the window and kill Dracula's bride, and he.
I thought that took a silver bullet.
No, that's werewolves.
Oh, okay. Oh no, that's a stake through the heart, though.
Well, for
So that-
vampires.
For vampires.
Yeah.
See, this is all
hold
very
on,
confusing.
hold on. Let me help you. A stake through the heart. Where does that come from? Vlad the Impaler. He'll put you on a stake.
But weren't they, because the Egyptians, because they found evidence of vampires all around the world, right? And the Egyptians, they had some symbol for tombs, wherever it was like the undead or a vampire, somebody they considered that. And they actually had, I don't know whether it was iron, but they would have a stake driven through the chest to keep them bound to the ground so they couldn't arise up from their graves and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't realize that whole stake thing, or at least the popularist version of it, came from, Vlad.
Absolutely. So with all of these things that pull from history, I'm not trying to justify these boring history classes, but history itself, depending on the storyteller or podcast or the forum, it can be so invigorating to say, oh wow, because it all pulls into now. If you don't know where you come from, you can't know where you're going. And I just love the story of Vlad. And I'm probably sound like a cheerleader at this point. I just love the story of Vlad because it has so much depth to it.
Right. Now, in that region at the time, the western part of mainland Europe and even going towards England, they were still kind of going that expansionist policy of trying to, like the West Indies and different parts of Africa, still obsessed, I guess, with different trade routes and expanding the empire, and a lot of focus on Eastern Europe escaped at that time, because like in our English history textbooks, I mean, we completely skip over that whole type of medieval and post-medieval area, and it just concentrates purely like on the kings and queens of England. And we have this huge gap where we grow up, even in Europe, not knowing anything about the history. I mean, we didn't even touch, I'd never even heard the name Vlad until a later interest, in life, in like Dracula and vampires and stuff.
Now, just to, I understand in America, I can only speak from where I'm from, our history has been sanitized. However, I don't see the need for that. I think we can look at history, at least if we're being mature about it, and draw our own conclusion. Some people have been demonized. Some people have been given sainthood and they didn't deserve it. But I was going to go somewhere with that. But nonetheless, in terms of no, Oliver Cromwell. That's what I was going to say.
Mm-hmm.
Because okay, so everybody's familiar with him and the Irish Holocaust. Now that's from the Irish perspective. From the British perspective, that was not a Holocaust. That was Protestants versus Catholics, and we were doing that as a part of a holy movement. I don't think anybody should have died, but still, we're going to see the story come from it. I didn't learn about Oliver Cromwell or the depths of what was going on in Ireland and going down to, the Montserrat and Barbados, Pirates of the Caribbean. I didn't know nothing about that in school. I saw the pirate movies and a couple King and Queen movies, and I knew about Irish, but I had no context to say, oh, Oliver Cromwell, he was the only person to cut the head off a king. He stops the bloodline. He goes over there because he's a Protestant extremist, and he goes to war with these Catholics. And according to their part of the story, he's killing women and children. From a Protestant perspective. But they don't talk about none of that in school because maybe that's too deep for us as children, and only mature men can speak on that. Hence, here we are today, gentlemen.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Flogging Molly song, Tobacco Island. My favorite band, Flogging Molly, they have a song called Tobacco Island, and it tells the whole story of Oliver Cromwell.
Right.
So you got a bunch of kids at a punk rock show. They're singing along with this song. They don't even realize they're learning history at the same time because it's accurate.
Well, I think, just as much as American history has been sanitized in its, I guess, presentation to kids coming through the public school system, the same was true growing up in England. I mean, we never were taught the bad blood, the history between the English and the Irish, because when I was growing up there, the IRA, the Irish Republican Army, was still a very big thing. We'd have terrorist attacks on the mainland, and we didn't know why they hated, or it seemed like they hated the English. But it's the same way today, why we don't understand the history of, Christianity versus Islam, and, how all these wars came about, because people just, nowadays kids are just like, they see the news, oh, there's a radical Islamic terrorist attack. They don't understand all the history behind it. Now, it doesn't justify the acts, but right. It helps the media and certain political bodies demonize if you take away people's reasons for doing something, somebody's reasons for an insurrection or a rebellion, that if you don't know, like, these people might have been badly treated for 1,000 years, or, we massacred people and took their lands, and then the only thing we hear is when there's some type of fighting back in some way, and then we get to demonize those people because it's like, hey, look, they did this for no reason other than they hate the West and that they hate us, when we're devoid of the history which really goes into the details of why all this bad blood has been going back hundreds and thousands of years.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be a sympathizer. I don't want to make excuses or anything of that nature. But, from my look, in terms of the Irish, since we're just there, they got dealt a raw hand in a lot of things, like, wow. And then, my grandma would say, if it weren't for bad luck, at one point in time, Irish would have had no luck.
Well, that's funny because one of the big sayings is the luck of the Irish, and it's supposed to be lucky, like the four-leaf clover and all this green, but the luck of the Irish is not good. Right. It's like, getting cancer and then going blind the next day. I mean, it's
yeah,
The irony of it all.
Yeah.
True.
Getting back to the east side of Europe. We've been on the west side for long enough. Let's get back to Vlad. So let me just share screen again. Oh my God, my blood pressure. So Daddy Vlad, that's where I was at. Hungary position had weakened, causing Vlad to abandon Hungary and join his enemies, the Ottomans, which included participating in an invasion of Transylvania, against, John Hunyadi, voivode of Transylvania, or ruler of Transylvania, came to Wallachia, which was south of Transylvania. The Wallachia is the buffer zone between Europe and the Arab lands. Anyway, John Hunyadi, voivode of Transylvania, came to Wallachia to convince Vlad to join a crusade against the Ottomans in 1441. Bruh, don't do it. Don't do it. Vlad was released before the end of the year, but was forced to leave his 2 sons as hostages in the Ottoman court. Now, I skipped the part. I just realized I skipped the part. Hungary's positions weakens. Vlad has to join his enemies. This is Daddy Vlad. They be like, George Bush, which one? Daddy Bush. We're talking about Daddy Vlad. So now Daddy Vlad has to join the enemies. I know you my enemy, so I'm gonna call your ass down here. Hey, listen, now that we done Hungary can't protect you no more. You said we can say the ASS word?
Yeah.
Now that Hungary can't protect you no more, get your ass down here. So Vlad get his ass down there. This is Daddy Vlad. And he take his 2 sons. So they say, hey, we the rulers over you. He's like, yeah, you are the rulers over me. Because in those days, you had to, what does it say? You had to, like the knights in front of the king, his ass got to get on one knee. And then the king will drop his sword on you like, all right, you good in my book. You can go ahead on about your business. I forgot what it would, would it be, what would the knight do? Pledges allegiance. He would pledge his allegiance to the king. You get on one knee. So the leader of the Ottoman Empire put Daddy Vlad on one knee. And Daddy Vlad like, all right, bet, because Hungary can't hold you down no more. This is feudalism. Strongest man wins. If you don't, well, I'll just kill you and everybody over there, and then we're going to raid all of Europe. Anyway, so Daddy Vlad get on one knee, and he says, you can go home now. So as he goes to go home, I really need some sound effects. No, hold on. Leave your sons. Huh? Yeah, just for good measure. I'm not going to do nothing to them, but they just stay here with me just to make sure this is Daddy Vlad, just to make sure you do right by me. So the 2 sons, one of the 2 sons was Vlad. Vlad is the older brother. He's about 11 at the time. His brother's like 7. Vlad has dark hair, pale skin. This is the emo thing, folks. His brother has blonde hair, rosy skin. The Arabs said his brother was beautiful. They said Vlad, was pasty with that dark hair. You just, you're not the most attractive person. He has this big prominent nose, this bone. His brother's nose is straight line. It's very dagnabbit. What is them people with blonde hair, a prominent nose? They're up there in the north. Very
Nordic.
Nordic. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Teach. Very Nordic looking, So now, in addition to that, he's submissive. Vlad, this is keep in mind, European history has been preserved through Arab history. The Arabs said they had to beat Vlad ass every day. His brother, he's good. He looks good. He's submissive. He'll do what they say. Vlad, every day they beat. Now keep in mind, I'm not trying. I haven't even told you the story of Vlad yet. I just want to set the stage. We're probably gonna have to do a part 2, gentlemen. We're probably gonna have to do a part 2 because I haven't even got to the story. This is just a backdrop to give you an idea of what happens. Oh, he's a savage. Hold on, guys. Let me give you some context. It's gonna take about an hour, but this is a lot of history to just kind of put together. He's 11 at this point. So they said he won't submit. He's very aggressive. He has no fear in him. Even when we beat his ass, he'll fight back. That's the type of guy. This is the type of 11-year-old he is. And he's raised behind enemy lines. So they bring. He's on some Weapon X. I'm not saying the idea of Wolverine, the Marvel character, comes from Vlad. I'm saying that you can easily correlate the two. They took this boy who had this spirit for war, and then they beat his ass and made him a weapon. He fought for Islam. Vlad fought for Islam. They whipped his ass every day. They made him a soldier and they worked his ass and they taught him. He was a slave, but they educated him. He was a high value. Your daddy is a king, void, whatever. And that's what it is. So now, Daddy Vlad, let's go back because that's the part I left out. Of course, it's too much to put in one slide. But anyway, Vlad was released before the end of the year, but was forced to leave his 2 young sons as hostages in the Ottoman court. He was restored in Wallachia with Ottoman support in 1443. Before I move on to continue like father, like son, was there anything you wanted to add? Maybe I want to be considerate.
No, I mean, I'm following along.
Now, sorry, I had a question. At this time, were there any other powers kind of waiting in the wings? Because a lot of the time in history, you'll have nations which, build up their armies and they wait for that power vacuum, to appear. So at that time, there were no huge wars going on in Europe. Like you said, it was the end of the kind of like feudal era. The Teutonic Knights had pretty much died out in terms of marching to expand the Holy Lands and all this stuff. But were there any other nations around that area which were kind of waiting to jump in or form alliances? Because I've only really read the story very briefly of that whole conflict. But I mean, I know you'll get onto it, but it was pretty miraculous how Vlad, kind of overcame those odds. And I just wondered if there was any kind of back-in or he had some kind of plan B if his initial approach to this, didn't work out. I mean, geopolitically, I don't know how much history there is about, especially the northern region of Europe at that time, but Northern Europe was still very strong. I mean, like the Nordic area, the Vikings, that entire area there. I mean, it had obviously great industry with fishing. It's fantastic at hunting, skiing. Yeah,
they're good at skiing.
They're good at skiing. So I just didn't know. I mean, I know it's a bit of a random question, but what were the other kind of power struggles around that area at the time?
That's not a random question. That's right and exact. And I wanted to, I won't go there. Let me say this. You said Teutonic Knights at the very beginning of your question.
Mm-hmm.
I already knew what you were talking about. However, the listening audience may not be aware. If you can, could you spell Teutonic? If you can't, no worries, I will.
Teutonic.
Yep. So now, when you're dealing with anything Teutonic, you're dealing with Germanic villages and tribes. I know when we think about Europe, when you think about a tribe, you ask, okay, we can say ask. Your ass gonna think about Pocahontas. When you think about tribes, you're gonna think about the Zulu nation. When you think about, you're not gonna think about Europe when we say tribes. Remember, this is medieval times. You're thinking about knights. You thinking about moats, castles, all this stuff. You're not thinking about tribes. So now, after Caesar is stabbed in the back, I need to do some sound effects, seriously. After Caesar gets stabbed in the back, and because my sound effects are horrible, but that's my rendition of Caesar getting stabbed. I'm sure it didn't sound that way. So after he gets stabbed, there's a power vacuum right there. Keep in mind, this is respectively, this may be the greatest. No. According to European history, there has never been a European. Well, the British Navy was pretty badass, but in terms of Caesar's military, that's about as badass as you're going to get for Europe. I think that's a very, very high point in European society where there's a power thing. He gets stabbed, his military falls, boom, power vacuum. So now, who are the warring factions trying to fill this void? Well, you're going to have the Teutonic Knights. And so now, as I told you, West Germany, Dagnabbit, West Europe falls. We can say Dagnabbit, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Let me check the notes. Can we say dag nabbit?
Yeah, any Scooby-Doo type cussing is allowed.
We're not going to talk about Scooby-Doo. Let's not go down that road. Last time we tried that, we had to go down the road a little bit.
Yeah, we mixed Scooby-Doo with Delta 8, and that wasn't the best podcast in the world. It's yet to make an appearance. It might do in a few years.
Oh, this is pleasurable. I'm really enjoying these, gentlemen. Thank you. So yes, West Europe falls, East Europe survives. Why does East Europe survive? Well, because you have these Teutonic tribes which are protecting. Because remember, over there on the east side, the far east, you're going to have Genghis Khan. He's going Hamilton. Ham is a acronym amongst Black or melanated people, HAAM, for hard as a M-effer. But instead of saying ham, I like to say Hamilton. To kind of put I like to jazz my profanity up. Let's put a little sauce in it. So, Genghis Khan, the Mongols, they're going Hamilton at this particular time. So to protect the buffer from that way is going to be the Germanic tribes. So the Germanic tribes, you're going to have the Goths, the Visigoths. You're going to have there's other Germanic. There's the Vandals.
Right. Yeah.
The reason the Vandals got the name the Vandals, because they went in they were the only tribe. This is a loose organization. We don't got ish together for Rome, the Senate. They had ish together. These are some punks as far as Europe's concerned. I'm sorry, excuse me. As far as Rome is concerned. Who is these punks coming into town ripping ish up? Oh, those are the Vandals. Who are the Vandals? This is a Germanic tribe from over there. They're a bunch of badasses. This is where vandalism comes from. They went into Rome and ransacked. The only people who could sack Rome, they sacked this place and who sacked Rome? I'm talking back when they were a mega power. Oh, the Vandals. Well, they must have been some badasses then if they could sack Rome.
They were a good punk rock band too. That's probably where they got their name.
I've not heard of that.
Yeah,
now,
the
Vandals, were they the tribe who painted their faces red going into battle? I know there was some tribe around that time who
painted their face red.
Yeah, they painted their faces red. I don't know if it was the same tribe, but also there was one of those tribes which drank blood, which also gave rise to the little bit of the vampire theory. And so, their enemies were automatically scared of them. It's like, oh my goodness, they drink blood and they put the, blood of their victims on their face going into battle and stuff. It might not have been the Vandals.
No. You're referring to another Germanic tribe who was more badass. Could it be a such thing? They were called the Berserkers.
Oh, okay. Yes. Because that's where the German tank got its name from, wasn't it? The Berserker. In World War II, yeah, I think it's a type of German weapon as well, the Berserker,
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So now, these were these German boys. Number one, they're stocky as hell. Their women are stock. The women are built like men. So what the men built like, huh? So now you got these tall ass, big ass white boys who will fight you naked. You got the helmet, you got the sword, the shield, the holy grail, all types of ish. These boys are naked. Blood everywhere. This is where the word berserk comes from. These Jews were going. These are the Germanic tribes. They're badass, bro.
Now, who were considered the Huns? Because that's another group, isn't it? The Huns?
No, that's the ones that are the women in the Catholic Church, along with the priests.
Close. Close. The nuns.
Oh, that's the nuns. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
I get those
pronounced my
confused.
H's with a shortened pillar on it, so it looks like an M.
Oh, yeah. That's what it is.
So the Huns, who were they exactly? Were they from Hungary, or was that an over simplified guess?
We wouldn't know about these tribes. These are just random ass tribes. We wouldn't know about the Huns unless it was for their number one star person out of the tribe whose name was Attila.
Oh yeah, Attila the Hun. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I forgot all about her. That's a her, right?
Close.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a 50-50 shot on that one.
50.
It sounds like a woman's name, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
nowadays it could be. You don't know. Yeah.
We don't want to misidentify anybody.
We don't want to misgender Attila.
Okay, there we go. Fair enough. Fair enough. I appreciate your consciousness. But yeah, no, yeah. Attila was definitely a guy. He was from one of those Asian tribes. He had a short-lived life in terms of success, but I don't think he deserves any honorable mention in this conversation. And only reason is because I want to delve a little bit more on these Teutonic Knights, or these Teutonic tribes, which we know are the Germanic or the Nordic tribes, a little bit more before we get back down here to Wallachia and Transylvania and Hungary, southeast, the southeast, the Georgia, Florida, before we go down there, let's stick to New York, the Teutonic. This is the northeast Europe. Anyway, so now when you're dealing with the Teutonics, the Nordics, their god is going to, be because time is based off the gods. Their gods are going to be based off the 5 days of the week, other than Monday. So now you have Tuesday, the day of Tuesday, the god, this is a Germanic, Nordic, Teutonic god. The god Tu, this is where we get Tuesday from. Wednesday is from the god Woden, who we most famously know through Hollywood as Odin. This is Wednesday. And then you have his most notable son, because Twi is his son as well. His most notable son is Thor. So then after Wednesday, or Woden Day, we have Thor's Day, or as you English may call it, Thursday. And then you have Thor's wife, you have Woden's wife, who is Thor's mother. Her name is Frigga, for Frigga Day or Friday. I got my German accent that's horrible, but I digress. These are the Teutonic days of the week for the Teutonic gods. The Germans are going to call, the Romans are going to call Monday, it's Tuesday. They're not going to say Twi. They're going to call it Mars, the day of Mars. They're not going to call Wednesday Woden. They're going to call it Mercury. They're not going to call Thursday Thor. They're going to call it Jupiter, because they have a different pantheon of gods. But nonetheless, these Teutonic gods, these Teutonic tribes have a huge influence on Europe. But they are the black sheep of the family. They're we'll talk about the Irish before we talk about, Germany has, in terms, the question that really got me on this topic was, that power shift. These Germanic tribes today, in terms of World War II, you want to talk about an MF and power shift? These Germanic tribes in World War II, they showed their ass. Go back and look at the Treaty of Versailles. It was all Germany's fault.
Right. And there was, huge conspiracies, other than the economic situation about, the start of World War II and Germany's reasons. But there's a huge occult influence in the power holdings at the time in Germany. I mean, part of the third push towards Africa was trying to find like the Holy Grail, because they believed at the higher levels of the German command that if they could actually find that would make them indefeatable in battle. And I can't remember whether it was Rommel. He had a great interest in the archaeological digs in Africa because he believed there were a lot of religious relics which, would unite various countries behind them if they were seen to be holding, the symbols of religious power. And, some people say that actually led to Germany's downfall in the war, that they tried to fight the war on 3 different fronts. So rather than just Europe and Russia, once they expanded into Africa, they ended up putting more and more onus into trying to find these relics that had actually diluted the original kind of battle plan. But again, that might have been something I dreamt, but I'm pretty sure that was true.
That sounds like Indiana Jones.
Right, yeah. Well, it was a little bit.
No, I'm sorry. And I know that was said in jest. However, there's a lot of truth said in jest. I don't know if there's a guy here in America, well, not anymore, rest in peace. But there was a guy here in America by the name of, I think it was John Carson.
Yeah. Who did the late night show, dude?
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, Johnny Carson. That's the name, but that's not the one I was thinking about. Dead political comedian. Dead.
Oh, is he thinking of George Carlin?
Yeah,
George Carlin.
Yeah.
Sounds like Johnny Carson.
For the podcasters who can't see me right now, I've got my hands up. I'm bowing. Thank you.
Beautiful.
A part of my moniker is being the master student. My gift is not that I know everything. My gift is that I can learn. So yeah, absolutely. I'm still learning. Johnny Carson, George Carson, it was close. So, he is very, he's come up as a comedian, but a lot of truth is said in jest, and he's the epitome of that. He's the epitome of that. Someone who has said something in a way that is funny, but it has a lot of truth in it. So now when the brother says Indiana Jones, we have to understand this is right and exact. These are the same. A lot of truth is said in jest because Hollywood, which I call Hollyweird, is going to present you the information. They're just going to present it in a way that it's not going to cause public panic. Remember, sci-fi was created after Roswell. We've got to get in front of this, gentlemen. We've got to figure out how to calm the masses. All right, well, listen, let's tell them the truth and just tell them it's not the truth. So when they see it, they won't trip. Yeah, Indiana Jones. That's right and exact.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense because I still believe Star Wars is real.
Right.
I mean, they finally, they finally made a lightsaber. Disney, that's the only good thing to really come out of that in Rogue One. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's be honest. But, well, and The Mandalorian. We like The Mandalorian.
Mind you, Crumb is a big Marvel fan. What do you actually think of the Marvel franchise now Disney has it? Are you one of those people who think they're kind of milking it to death, or is it actually worth 5 bad movies to actually get one gem every now and then?
So anybody who is not a Marvel fan or a geek, meaning anybody who has a life, yes, I am. I don't have a life, and this is what I do all day. So Marvel was bought by Disney, which I thought, and everybody thought for that matter, that it was going to be a bad thing. And Disney really tricked out Marvel. Grew Marvel up. Disney put the anti-heroes and all of these, sexual innuendos that Disney's famous for. We got to understand Disney was in bed with one of the biggest, and I'm all right, you know what? I guess at this point we've abandoned Vlad because I'm about to go in on the Germans. So now Disney got into bed with a famous German. This is after World War II, Operation Paperclip. And I mentioned that because this particular German was a part of the Nazi regime, but he was a scientist who was absorbed
as a CIA program, isn't it? Operation Paperclip. Yeah.
Yes. Well, yeah. It was a government. The CIA wasn't created until after Operation Paperclip, but I digress. So now, because those people that they absorbed, they became the CIA. Too big to fail. Anyway, because hey, damn, they fucking about to say, dag nabbit, I'm sorry, you can be.
Let's go. Hey, actually, at that bit where we cut that bit out, can you find a way to kind of wrap this up for the end of part 1? Then we're going to take a quick bathroom break and then go straight into part 2.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So
let's
I'm just
way to wrap up.
Right. So I'm gonna
go straight to part 2.
Right. I'm gonna clip that, then hit stop on the recording, then restart everything so I can separate the files.
Yeah.
Too. So,
okay.
All right. Cool. All right, man. Well, should we let him kind of continue on to the end of that, or you want me to
do what you think would be a good way to end part 1? Then, like I said, we'll take a quick bathroom break and then we'll record part 2 with it. Okay. Make it into digestible kind of like bite-sized things.
Yeah.
Okay. So, my apologies. I love Vlad to life, and I am going to resurrect and vindicate him. But I just want to end on this note for this show, because there's so much to be covered, gentlemen, is that when we see Werner von Braun, he came over from Operation Paperclip, and he's best buddies with none other than Walter Disney. So now Walter Disney has this huge occult thing behind it, because they were on their Indiana Jones thing over there in Germany, and now he takes Marvel to the next level. So he takes Star Wars. Shout out to George Lucas, rest in peace. You're done now. He takes Star Wars and makes an episode, a cartoon series called Clone Wars, which takes us right back to Germany, because those people in Germany that were fighting, you lost 40% of your population after World War I. That's why the Treaty of Versailles, the Guilt Clause 231, was put on you, because we had the power to, the feudal system, to bring this conversation full circle. So now, to get back from World War I, you've got to create a bunch of clones. World War II was Clone Wars. Disney know all about it, and they telling us to our face. With that said, gentlemen, I want to thank you for having me on The Wolf and the Shepherd. I am your humble brother, Crumb. You can find me on crumbtv.info. I want to leave you the exact same way I came to you. In peace.
Hey, thanks so much, man. And yeah, we're only, a few slides into this Vlad thing. We're going to have you back on, and we're going to continue on this discussion. So we certainly appreciate all that. And thanks for tuning into this episode of The Wolf and the Shepherd, and we will catch you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Wolf and the Shepherd podcast. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, thewolfandtheshepherd.com, to your friends and colleagues. And please leave us a positive review on iTunes when you get a chance. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for additional content. Join us next time for another episode of The Wolf and the Shepherd.